Hi guys, welcome back to Spaceboy by David Walliams. Really enjoying this book. I'm looking forward to doing this read along because I'm enjoying it so much. This is all David Walliams' own work. I'm just reading it for entertainment and pleasure reasons. So, David Walliams' Spaceboy, Chapter 20. This is called Bounce. Let's get going. Time performed the strangest trick. It sped up and slowed down all at once. As Ruth, Spaceboy, and Yuri, the dog, plunged for what seemed like miles towards the ground, Ruth's little life flashed before her eyes. Arriving at the farm with no shoes on her feet and a sign around her neck, Aunt Dorothy's chilling look, finding a little three-legged dog on the side of the road and fitting it with an egg whisk, reading the newspaper story about the first man in space, Yuri finding the telescope, spotting the UFO, finding Spaceboy, riding an ostrich, being trapped in a giant plastic ball, that ball falling through the air at terrific speed. No, that last bit wasn't a memory. That was really happening now, right now. But there was nothing Ruth could do to stop it. At any moment, the ball was going to hit the ground hard. She closed her eyes, and then the most marvelous thing happened. The ball bounced. The ball bounced the biggest bounce that had ever been bounced. Boing! It volleyed back up into the air. The exact same thing was happening to Spaceboy and Yuri. Boing! Boing! They had bounced on the road, both narrowly avoiding a greyhound bus, which screeched to a halt. Screech! Its horn hooted. Beep! Beep! All three were now hurtling up, up, up. But according to the laws of gravity, what goes up must come down. Boing! 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 They bounced back onto the ground. Beep! Beep! And again. Boing! 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 The balls bounced and bounced and bounced. The three inside tried to steer themselves away from the giant rocks dotted on either side of the road, but it was impossible. It was as if they were going in a giant game of pinball. Boing, boing, boing. Ruth bounced hard. Boing. Yuri bounced harder. Boing. Spaceboy bounced harder still. Boing. Now all three were prowling across the desert. Woohoo! Exclaimed Ruth. The girl felt free. For the first time in her little life, Ruth believed that nothing and nobody could stop her. How wrong she was. Just coming over the horizon was a series of dark moving shapes. It was only when the ball slowed a little and Ruth could focus that she realized what they were. Moon buggies. They ran on tracks like little tanks with the driver in the radiation suit sitting high up in the pod. The buggies had two long robot arms, one a grappling hook on the end, like a lucky dip machine at the fair. The other had a laser blaster. Zap! Who were these terrible figures keep pursuing them? Ruth was terrified. There was no stopping this hooded army. Now a dozen moon buggies were heading straight towards them. The three had to change course. Ruth looked left. Moon buggies! Ruth looked right. More moon buggies! Ruth looked behind. Even more moon buggies! All were powering over the desert straight towards them. Vroom! Clouds of dust and sand were being hurled into the air in their wake. Woof! The moon buggies' tracks made light work of the terrain, crushing small rocks and bulldozing cacti as they sped through the deserts to surround Ruth, Yuri, and Spaceboy. The balls eventually stopped short distances from each other. Ruth felt as if she could take charge, as the other two alien and an animal. This seemed the most sensible course of action. Listen to me, she said in a loud voice. There is one way to escape from these moon buggies. Yuri tilted his head as if trying to understand, and that is to bounce over them. Excuse me? Boy boomed Spaceboy. Like this, she exclaimed, and she sprang up and down to make her giant ball bounce. Boing, boing, boing! Within moments, the three of them were springing up and down in their balls. Boing, boing, boing! Yes, exclaimed Ruth, trying her best to sound as if she had no doubt whatsoever that her plan would work a treat. Following her lead, the other two began bouncing their balls straight towards the moon buggies too. Boing, boing, boing! Soon Ruth was sure she was bouncing higher than the moon buggies. Now it was all about timing. Boing, boing, boing! Wait for it, she shouted, holding her nerve as the moon buggies thundered straight towards them from every angle. There was now a circle of moon buggies closing in on them. Wait for it, now! Cried Ruth. With that, she bounced down on her plastic ball as hard as she could. Boing! Once again, the other two followed her lead. Boing, boing! All three balls sailed over the moon buggies. They landed behind the vehicles on the desert plain. The drivers of the moon buggies must not have seen that coming as they crashed sight into each other. Suddenly, the moon buggies were like insects trapped in a jar, trying to climb over each other with zero success. All they managed to do was mangle themselves together further. As for Ruth, she couldn't take her eyes off of the carnage she had created, which was a shame, because she wasn't looking where she was rolling. Woof, woof, barked Yuri to warn her, but she was too mesmerized by the mess. Her ball rolled straight into a cactus. Pop! And it deflated in an instant. Poof! Chapter 21. Poked in the bottom. Ruth felt as it deflated as her ball. She tore through the plastic where the cactus had made a hole and climbed out. The figures in the radiation suits began scrambling out of their pods on the moon buggies. Make a roll for it, she shouted to Yuri and Spaceboy. Neither looked as if they wanted to leave her. Yuri whimpered and did his saddest face. He was an expert at making sad faces, especially when you were eating a sausage and he wanted to save you the bother by wolfing it down for you. What a kind of. Spaceboy merely shook his head. The faceless figures were now a little more than an arm's length away. Ruth had to act fast, so she clambered up onto a rock. From there she jumped on top of Yuri's ball. Boing! Run, Yuri, run! She shouted. The dog instantly knew what to do and began powering the ball through the desert. Trundle! Like a circus entertainer, Ruth managed to balance and run along the top. Just as one of the figures was about to grab Spaceboy's ball, Spaceboy rolled off too. Trundle! The two moon buggies managed to untangle themselves from the wreckage and powered after them. More of the faceless figures leaped onto the other sides of the vehicles. They scrambled to their feet, their arms outstretched, ready to catch their prey. Ruth ran as fast as she could, making Yuri's ball roll faster and faster. Meanwhile, the first moon buggy caught up with Spaceboy's ball. The tip of its laser gun poked it. Ploink! That just made the ball go faster. Trundle! Now Spaceboy's ball overtook Ruth and Yuri's. Whiz! Being competitive, Ruth ran faster, so they caught up again. Zap, zap, zap! The faceless figures were firing their laser blasters. Explosions were going off all around the plastic balls. Boom, boom, boom! Not far off, rocks towered like giant tombstones in the earth. This way, called Ruth. Maybe we can lose them. If you say so, replied Spaceboy, unconvinced. Changing course was harder than she thought, especially with the dog scampering inside the ball below her. It was so hard, in fact, that Ruth lost her footing and slipped. Whoops! Ah! She cried. She fell forward but managed to grip the ridges of the plastic ball. Now she was lying face down, clinging to the outside of the ball as it rolled over her every 2 seconds. Ouch! 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 Poor Yuri didn't know what to do. Frightened at seeing his mistress' face pressed up against the clear plastic, the little dog sped up, which only made matters worse. Now the ball was rolling over Ruth once every second. Ouch! 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 The moon buggies with the faceless figures circling on top were gaining on them. As Ruth rolled round, the spinning ball of the first moon buggy's laser blaster poked her in the bottom. Oof! Now she was making exclamations of pain every half a second. Ouch! Oof! Ouch! Oof! Ouch! Oof! Somehow Ruth had become human horn, hooting every time the pressure was applied. It was difficult to know if the visitors from other planets have senses of humour at this until now, because Spaceboy found the bottom poking absolutely hilarious. Ha 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 ha! Every time Ruth was poked in the bottom, he let out a snort of laughter. Ouch! Oof! Ha! Ouch! Oof! Ha! Ouch! Oof! Ha! Ruth's sour face turned even more. There is nothing funny, ouch, about being poked in the bottom. Oof! She cried. But this only made Spaceboy snort some more. Ha 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 ha! Being protective of his mistress, Yuri growled and Spaceboy every time he snorted. Grrr! Together they were an orchestra of funny noises. Ouch! Oof! Ha! Grrr! Ouch! Oof! Ha! Grrr! Ouch! Oof! Ha! Grrr! However, there was no time to cut a record, as there was some serious escaping to do. Chapter 22. Chomp. The plastic balls rolled between a slim gap in the rocks, slim enough for a large plastic ball to fit through, but fortunately not quite wide enough for a moon buggy. The two moon buggies tried to pass through the gap at once. Both ended up smashing straight into the rocks on either side of them. Crunch! The faceless figures who had leaped on the moon buggies were hurled up into the air by the force of the impact. They then fell to the ground like rag dolls. Doof, doof, doof. The moon buggies were now so mangled they couldn't move another inch in any direction. Our heroes continued rolling down the gap between the rocks, but as it narrowed to the two remaining clear plastic balls became stuck too. Squish, squish! Poor Ruth was trapped underneath Yuri's ball. Ah! She cried, arching her back to push the thing off. But try as she might, it wouldn't budge. To make matters worse, the faceless figures who had been thrown off the moon buggies clambered to their feet. In no time they were hurrying along the gap in the rocks after our three heroes. We're stuck, shouted Ruth. Incredible powers of deduction, remarked Spaceboy, still trapped inside the plastic ball. Suddenly, Ruth had an idea. I know! Maybe we can bite my way out, she exclaimed. No harm trying, the great Spaceboy. One big chomp and the ball might just burst. Chomp, 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 she went. But Ruth's teeth weren't long and sharp enough to pierce the plastic. From inside the ball, Yuri placed his face up against hers. The dog tried to lick her face. He did this whenever she was in distress, but it gave Ruth another idea, one much better than her last. You bite it, Yuri, you bite it, she cried. Yuri bared his fangs and chomp! The plastic ball exploded like a balloon. Pop! Ruth scrambled to her feet and cradled her dog in her arms and planted a big kiss on his head. Mwah! Good boy, Yuri. One down, one to go, called out Spaceboy from an inside of the plastic ball. The dog knew exactly what to do. Chomp! Pop! Now Spaceboy was free too. Very good boy, Yuri, he said. He's the best. If we go into space, we have to take him. Agreed, replied Spaceboy. Ruth couldn't help herself. It had been so long since she'd hugged anyone other than Yuri. She threw open her arms and wrapped them around Spaceboy. He held her tight. For a moment, everything seemed right. It was as if she found a piece of her that was missing. Then all of a sudden, that part of her was missing. One of the faceless figures grabbed Spaceboy by the arm and yanked him back hard. Rump! Ah! Cried Spaceboy. Get your hands off my friend, shouted Ruth. Ruth! You and Yuri can run away while you can, Spaceboy shouted back as he was hauled along the ground. I am not leaving you, Spaceboy, she shouted. Go get him, Yuri. The little dog launched himself at the faceless figure. Grrr! He bit into the arm of the figure's radiation suit and didn't let go. Grrr! The figure tried to shake the dog off, but it was impossible. Grrr! This proved to be the perfect distraction. Ruth grabbed hold of Spaceboy's other arm and yanked him back as hard as she could. Ah! Spaceboy was free! Let's go, go, go! She shouted, holding Spaceboy's hand with Yuri now at her heels. Ruth raced along the narrow gap in the rocks. She didn't dare look back. That would slow them down. They had to keep moving forward, away from danger. Little did it know they were heading straight into it. Chapter 23. Butt sliding. Up ahead stood a little opening in the rocks. Ruth, Yuri, and Spaceboy raced through the hole and very nearly plunged them to their death. Halt! Shouted Ruth as they teetered at the edge of the deepest crater. It was as deep as a skyscraper is tall. Whoa! Exclaimed a wobbly Spaceboy. If this dodgy knee gave away now, it would be the end. Yuri was not so lucky. He was running too fast on his 3 legs and one egg whisk and careered over the edge. The little dog began sliding down the crater. Woof! He barked in terror. Spaceboy grabbed the dog's egg whisk leg just in time. Yank! The alien pulled Yuri back to safety. Thank you, said Ruth. I have grown rather fond of this little fellow, said Spaceboy. And he has you. Yuri began nuzzling up against Spaceboy's leg to say thank you. Craters like this were dotted all over the desert. Most have been caused by meteors hitting Earth thousands or even millions of years ago. This one was so fast that it looked as if it had been created by the moon falling out of the sky. It was perfectly round, however, which aroused suspicion. What's more, there was a bare tree trunk standing still at the very bottom of the crater. This was deep in the desert. There weren't any trees for miles around. While Ruth was pondering all of this, she heard footsteps behind her. Looking over her shoulder, she spotted the faceless figures a few steps away from them. Their arms were outstretched, ready to grab them. "There's no going back now," said Ruth. "We can only go forward." "It's too dangerous," boomed Spaceboy. "It's me they want. Let me give myself up." "Never! I know what they'll do with you. An alien from another world? Experiments and all sorts." She turned the two faceless figures behind them. "Am I right?" The faceless figures nodded. "But we can't go forward," remarked Spaceboy. "Look." He pointed to a sign that read, "Extremely dangerous danger. Keep out. Don't even think about it. Really, go away now before you die." "We have no choice," said Ruth. "We will have to do some butt sliding. Here goes." With that, she took Spaceboy by the hand and Yuri by the paw. Just as the faceless figure's hands clutched at them, she leaped off the ledge, swinging her companions with her. "Ah!" the three cried, as they found themselves sliding into the crater on their bottoms. Whoosh! At first the walls of the crater were all vertical. It was like free falling. Then they began to slide as the walls of the crater curved. "My space butt is overheating!" yelled Spaceboy. Sparks were flying out off his silver suit. Sizzle, sazzle, sazzle! The crater was surprisingly smooth, so the three travelled at the speed of lightning. Whiz! Plumes of red dust shot up into the air behind them. Woof! Ruth looked around to see that their bottoms had rubbed the dust off the crater. A silver surface was revealed underneath in three long butt-sized streaks. No wonder it felt smooth, and they were travelling so fast. This was no ordinary crater. This was metal. It was a man-made. Just as Ruth was taking this in, she realised they were heading straight for the tree trunk. At any moment they were going to twang! Too late. They had hit the tree hard. That, too, was metal. The force of the blow knocked some of the plastic bark off the tree. Crumble! As the three found themselves in a dusty heap at the bottom of the crater, Ruth realised what they were. "This is no crater. Look! It must be a giant radar dish," she exclaimed. "You are right, Ruth," agreed Spaceboy. "Woof!" added Yuri, looking up. They spotted that there were now hundreds of faceless figures lining the rim of the radar dish. "We're done for," said Ruth. "There must be a way to escape," said Spaceboy. "I am so sorry. This is a bad idea. We should have stayed and fought," said Ruth. "Against this army?" Just then the three felt the floor sliding underneath them. A gap was opened, and whoosh! The three plunged down. "Ah! Ah! Woof!" Okay, I'm going to read this next chapter, so it'll be a bit longer, and then it'll get you to part 3. So, chapter 24, an intergalactic car wash. It was the world's longest slide. The three skidded down it for what seemed like a very long time, their cries echoing along the tube. "Ah! Ah! Woof!" Just as abruptly as the slide had begun, it ended. Ruth, Yuri, and Spaceboy were deposited on what felt like a crush mat. Thwack! 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 They found themselves at the bottom of the vast cave, a cave like no other, as this one was humming with technology, computers, TV screens, giant maps of the solar system. If our heroes thought they had escaped the figures in radiation suits, they couldn't have been more wrong. Down here, among the stalagmites and the stalactites, there were hundreds more of them, all standing motionless as they faced all the three visitors. There was an eerie silence. Ruth began praying that someone, anyone, man, beast, or indeed an alien, might let one rip to break the ice. Sadly, no one did. Some of the faceless figures at the front pointed the laser blades at the three and guided them towards a conveyor belt. Shuffle! The belt powered the three of them into a long glass tunnel, wide enough for a train. All along the outside of the tunnel, computers chirped, bloop, bloop, beep, as more figures in radiation suits hurried around them. They were pressing buttons, twiddling knobs, and studying lines on the screen. Ruth was trembling with fear. It was as if they were the centre of some nightmarish experiment. She glimpsed X-ray pictures of their skeletons. She heard the bleep of the heart monitor machines. She was all but blinded by a piercing red light which shone straight into her eyes. What on earth was happening to them? Next the three were sprayed with water. Whoosh! The water was freezing cold. Ruth gasped for breath. Ah! All the dirt and the red dust ran down their legs and onto the belt. Then as they travelled further down the tunnel, little sprays appeared and they were squirted with soap. Squelch! It wasn't normal soap, it was some strong smelling chemical. Whiff! Oops. It burned a little. If you left it on too long, it seemed as it might peel off your skin. Sizzle! Grrr! Yelled Yuri. Spaceboy did everything he could to wipe it off. Now the conveyor belt took them to a tree of robot arms. All these robot arms had mops attached to the ends. Whiz! The arms whirred this way and that, washing all the soap off with precision. Next there was a blast of hot air from what looked like a giant hairdryer. Blast! All three of them were bone dry in a second, and it left Yuri's fur all spiky, and he suddenly looked like a completely different dog. Then there's a before and after. Next they passed through the ring of sensors that made a peculiar humming sound. Hum. The laser scanned their bodies to left to right. Ruth spotted the figures in radiation suits studying the screens on their computers with great interest. One nodded to the other, and eventually the conveyor belt lurched to a halt. Shunt! Shall we blast them to oblivion, Major? Asked one of the figures. Just then, three laser blasters on the robot arms pointed straight at the heroes. Ruth scrunched up her eyes as tight as they could. Go. Was she going to be vaporized? Not just yet, Captain, replied the deep-voiced, faceless figure. A very relieved Ruth, Yuri, and Spaceboy stepped out of the tunnel. They were all clearer, drier, and more confused than when they had gone in. The sea of figures in radiation suits parted to let one particular person through. He had an embroidered name badge sewn onto his radiation suit, which read Major Majors, head of the top secret base. Judging by the speed at which all the others stepped out of his way, it was clear that he was their leader. Every step he took, he clinked and clanked and clunked. Some of the crowd were holding movie cameras to record this historic moment. Welcome to Planet Earth, the Major said to Spaceboy, reaching out a gloved hand to shake. The alien reached his out, and the two hands touched. We have made first contact, announced the Major. There were huge whoops and cheers from all the crowd. Woo! The Major's handshake must have been incredibly strong, as Spaceboy wilted like a flower. Next, Major Majors took off his head covering and suit to reveal an army uniform underneath, adorned with what looked like 100 medals. That was all the clinking and clanking and clunking was about. As well as a war hero, the Major was pointlessly tall and stupidly handsome. His aging movie star face was framed by a short and neat army haircut which made his head look impressively square. He had piercing blue eyes, a tight mouth that looked as if it never smiled, and a chin so strong he could rest a vase of flowers on it. All three have been checked for virus and radiation, he said. The alien, the girl, and the dog. We are all clear, I repeat, all clear. Sound the bell. At his order, the bell sounded. Dring! The others took off their head coverings and radiation suits. A forest of faces adorned the cave, each one more amazed than the last. Their wide eyes focused on the alien. All were soldiers. If they hadn't already dawned on the three guests, this was the military base. Well, you certainly put us all through a wild goose chase, continued the Major. The helicopters, the balls, the moon buggies, but you found your way here just perfectly on your own. Welcome. Sorry, Spaceboy, sighed Sue. I led you straight into the lion's den. He shrugged. They were going to get me sooner or later. The alien can talk, announced the Major Majors. There were more huge whoops and cheers from the others. Woo! Yeah, of course I talk, he huffed. Where are we? In my top secret base, replied Major Majors proudly. It's top secret because here we, the US military, the best in the world, monitor the skies for interplanetary spacecraft. Well, it's not that top secret because we found it, said Reed. That crater up there is a really giant radar dish, announced Major Majors. Yes, I figured that out, she said, slapping her forehead in exasperation. All right, smarty pants. The radar dish tracked the flying saucer. We've been waiting for a breakthrough like this for years. We even pinpointed the crash site on the alien craft. That's when we sent the choppers up to track you down, Spaceboy. Well, Major Majors, began Spaceboy, it's been nice to meet you all down in this top secret base of yours. Good luck with your top secret stuff. Now, if you don't mind, I really should be on my way. Spaceboy took Ruth's hand and turned to go, but behind them the Major called out, Oh, no, my little space oddity. You ain't going nowhere. And that is I'm going to stop there, guys. It's quite a long one today, so don't feel obliged to listen to it all in one go. Next one will be part 3, chapter 25, Dog Kind, and that's on page 213. Thank you so much for listening. You guys are really kind, and I really really appreciate the views. And I shall see you until the next one. Goodbye, guys.